I watched her slip the fake pregnancy test into my husband's briefcase. His ex-girlfriend thought she was clever. What she didn't know, I saw everything. And instead of tearing us apart, her desperate schemes did something she never expected. They made my billionaire husband fall even deeper in love with me. Before we dive into this wild story, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because you won't believe how this plays out. Trust me, you'll want to hear every single detail. Now, let me take you back to where it all started. I met Harrison Blackwell on a rainy Tuesday evening at a charity art auction. I was there representing the small gallery where I worked as a curator, and he was there because, well, billionaires who own luxury hotel empires across 5 continents tend to show up at these things. I was admiring a sculpture when I heard this deep voice behind me say, "You're the first person tonight who's actually looking at the art instead of the price tags." I turned around, and there he was, tall, commanding presence, but with these warm brown eyes that made him seem approachable despite the expensive suit. We talked for 3 hours straight. He told me about growing up in boarding schools and building his hotel empire from a single boutique property his grandfather left him. I told him about my childhood in a cramped apartment, my mother's cooking, and why I loved art enough to make it my life. Despite barely making rent most months, we came from completely different worlds, but somehow we just clicked. 2 years of dating followed. 2 years of him showing up at my tiny studio apartment with takeout, of me teaching him that happiness didn't always come with a price tag, of long conversations that stretched into early morning hours. When he proposed, I said yes without hesitation. I loved this man with everything in me. Our wedding was intimate, just close family and friends. I won't lie to you, his family had reservations. I could see it in his mother's tight smile, in the way his father assessed me, like I was a business deal that didn't quite add up. I was Black. I came from nothing. I didn't go to the right schools or know the right people. But Harrison never wavered, not once. He held my hand through every uncomfortable dinner, every backhanded compliment from his mother's friends, every moment I felt like I didn't belong in his world. We settled into our life together in his penthouse, overlooking the city. I kept working at the gallery because it was my passion, and Harrison never asked me to give it up. For 6 beautiful months, I thought we'd left the past behind and were building our future. I should have known better. Her name was Vivian Hartley, and she appeared at a charity gala like a ghost from Harrison's past. Blonde, elegant, dripping in diamonds, and old money confidence. They'd dated for 3 years before me, the relationship his parents had dreamed of. She'd left him to marry some British aristocrat, breaking his heart in the process. But now she was divorced, and from the moment I saw her look at Harrison across that ballroom, I knew she saw him as unfinished business. At first it was subtle. We'd go to dinner at our favorite restaurant, and suddenly Vivian would be there, dining 2 tables over. We'd attend a gallery opening, and she'd appear, laughing with the same social circles. Harrison noticed but brushed it off as coincidence. "New York is small when you run in certain circles," he said. I wanted to believe him. Then the touching started, a hand on his arm, when she laughed at his jokes, fingers brushing his shoulder as she passed by at events. She'd position herself in conversations, angling her body toward him, excluding me with the precision of someone who'd studied social warfare. I felt it, that creeping insecurity that starts in your gut and spreads like poison. I started noticing things I'd never cared about before. How she never had a hair out of place, how she knew exactly what to say to make his parents light up, how she referenced memories I could never be part of. The real nightmare began when her father decided to invest in Harrison's new hotel project in Monaco. Suddenly, Vivian was a consultant on the deal. She had legitimate reasons to call him, text him, request meetings. There were late-night business dinners that I wasn't invited to because they were discussing financial projections and investor relations. Harrison would come home smelling like her perfume, and when I'd ask about his day, he'd kiss my forehead and say it was boring business talk. But I saw her social media, photos taken near his office building, pictures of his favorite coffee shop with captions about rediscovering old haunts. She was circling my husband like a shark, and I felt helpless to stop it without looking like a jealous, insecure wife. Then came the comparison game, and this is where it really started to hurt. We'd be at dinner with his parents, and Vivian's name would come up. Remember when Vivian organized that fundraiser, Harrison? Now that was an event, his mother would say, looking at me like I'd never measure up. Vivian would drop comments in conversations, casual little grenades. Remember when we summered in the Hamptons, Harrison? Those were such simple, perfect times. She'd reference inside jokes, shared experiences, a whole life they'd built that I could never touch. His mother started making more pointed observations. Vivian always knew how to host properly. She understood our social obligations. The implication was clear. I didn't. I wasn't enough. I'd catch Harrison's father studying me at family dinners, and I could practically hear him thinking that his son had made a mistake, marrying beneath his skin. I started doubting everything. Every time Harrison came home late, I wondered. Every time he was quiet, I assumed he was comparing me to her. I looked in the mirror and saw every flaw, every way I didn't measure up to this woman who seemed perfect for him on paper. I was drowning, and I didn't know how to tell my husband that his ex-girlfriend was systematically destroying my confidence. The day I found the pregnancy test in Harrison's briefcase, I thought my world had ended. I was looking for a pen, and there it was, positive, clear as day. My hands shook so badly I dropped it. For 10 minutes, I just sat on our bedroom floor, trying to breathe through the panic. Harrison was having a baby with someone else. It had to be her. It had to be Vivian. When he came home, I confronted him. I was crying, shaking, holding out the test like evidence in a trial. He looked at me like I'd lost my mind. "What are you talking about?" he kept saying. He'd never seen that test before. He didn't know where it came from. We went through his schedule, his meetings, and then he did something I didn't expect. He pulled up his office security footage. There she was, Vivian, slipping into his office while he was in a meeting. The cameras caught her going through his briefcase, planting the test, and leaving with this satisfied smile on her face. I watched my husband's face change as he saw the footage. The confusion turned to anger, then to something harder, colder. He called her immediately, right in front of me, and the things he said made it clear this was war now. But Vivian didn't stop. If anything, she escalated. Rumors started spreading at our country club, whispers that I'd married Harrison for his money, suggestions that I was having an affair with the gallery owner I worked with, a kind older man who'd been nothing but a mentor to me. Photos started appearing on society blogs, pictures of me and this gallery owner, taken from angles that made innocent conversations look intimate. Harrison's business partners started giving me strange looks at events. I'd walk into rooms, and conversations would stop. Someone had poisoned the well, and I knew exactly who. My reputation, the thing I'd worked so hard to build in a world that already doubted me, was crumbling. I felt trapped, helpless, like I was fighting shadows. The final scheme came at his parents' 40th anniversary party. It was a massive event, hundreds of guests, held at their estate. Vivian had somehow gotten herself added to the program to give a toast about enduring love and partnership. I sat at our table, Harrison's hand in mine, and listened to her talk about the importance of marrying someone who understands your world, who shares your values, who comes from the same place as you. Every word was a knife aimed at me. The guests who knew about Harrison's and my relationship understood exactly what she was doing. Then came her big announcement. Her father was making Harrison the face of a billion-dollar European expansion project. It was a career-defining opportunity, the kind of deal that would cement his legacy. There was just one condition. Vivian would work as his direct partner, co-managing the entire operation. His parents stood up and applauded. His mother was beaming. His father clapped Harrison on the shoulder, like the decision was already made. And I sat there, completely humiliated, feeling tears burn behind my eyes. This was it. This was how I lost him. Not because he stopped loving me, but because his entire world was pushing him towards someone else, and the pressure would eventually break us. Harrison stood up, and the room went quiet. I thought he was going to accept. I was already planning my exit, figuring out how to leave with whatever dignity I had left. But then he started talking, and I realized I'd underestimated my husband. He thanked Vivian's father for the opportunity and then declined it. Right there, in front of everyone, you could hear the shocked gasps ripple through the crowd. Then he turned to Vivian, and his voice was calm but firm. He talked about manipulation, about schemes designed to destroy his marriage. He brought up the fake pregnancy test. He mentioned the planted rumors. He'd documented everything, he said. He'd hired a private investigator weeks ago because he'd noticed the pattern, and he had proof of every single thing she'd done. The room was dead silent. His mother looked like she'd been slapped. Then Harrison turned to me, and his voice softened. He talked about real partnership, about a woman who loved him for who he was, not what he represented. He talked about how every scheme, every manipulation, every attempt to undermine me had only shown him more clearly why he'd married me in the first place. "You want to know what I see when I look at my wife?" he said. "I see someone who works every day at a job she loves, even though she doesn't need to. I see someone who makes me laugh, who challenges me, who never asks me for anything except my time and my honesty. I see the woman I want to build a life with, and no amount of money, no business deal, no connection to my past is worth losing that." Vivian left the party in tears. His parents sat frozen in their seats, finally understanding what they'd been complicit in. And Harrison took my hand and led me out of there with our heads held high. But my husband wasn't finished. He'd spent months watching someone try to destroy the woman he loved. And now he was going to make absolutely sure I never doubted my place in his life again. The next morning, I woke up to Harrison on the phone with his lawyers. By noon, he'd bought the gallery where I worked, not to control it, but to give me complete creative control as the new director. He established a foundation in my name dedicated to supporting Black artists, with an endowment that would fund it for generations. He announced it all at a press conference that afternoon, standing in front of cameras and saying, "My wife's passion deserves the world stage, and I'm honored to help build it." But the grand gestures were just the beginning. The real change was in the small, everyday things. Harrison started learning to cook my grandmother's recipes, fumbling through them in our kitchen with ingredients he'd never heard of before. He took Swahili lessons so he could speak with my extended family. He planned a vow renewal ceremony in Kenya, my parents' homeland, and insisted on flying my entire extended family there, all expenses paid. He sat down with his parents and had a conversation that was long overdue. I don't know everything that was said, but I know it ended with his mother calling me to apologize, her voice breaking as she admitted she'd been wrong about me, wrong to make me feel less than, wrong to support Vivian's presence in our lives. Then Harrison did something that took my breath away. He added my name to everything, the businesses, the properties, the accounts. He restructured his entire empire to create an equal partnership, legally and financially. When I asked him why, he pulled me closer and said, "Not because I doubt us, but because I want you to never doubt your place in my life. Everything I have, everything I am, we built together. I want the world to know that." The man who once just said, "I love you," now showed it in every possible way. Every single day, he'd come home early just to cook dinner with me. He'd skip business events to stay in and watch old movies. He defended me fiercely in every social situation, making it clear to everyone in his circle that disrespecting me meant losing him. Vivian eventually moved to Paris. I heard through the social circles that she finally accepted Harrison had moved on. His parents gradually came around, especially after they saw how genuinely happy their son was. Our marriage didn't just survive, it became stronger than I ever imagined possible. The irony of it all still makes me shake my head. Vivian thought she was competing with me, thought her schemes would create doubt and distance. What she never understood was that every attack on me forced Harrison to examine what he really valued. Every attempt to undermine our marriage made him defend it harder. Every moment she tried to make him doubt me made him more certain that I was exactly who he wanted. Sometimes the worst thing someone tries to do to you becomes the best thing that ever happened. Vivian's schemes didn't destroy my marriage. They purified it. They burned away any lingering doubts, any unspoken insecurities, any weakness in our foundation. We came through the fire stronger, more committed, more in love than ever. You can't compete with someone who's already won their partner's heart. You can't manipulate someone away from real love. And you definitely can't break a bond that's built on genuine respect, trust, and partnership. Vivian learned that the hard way. So that's my story, the ex who tried everything and failed spectacularly. If you've ever dealt with someone trying to sabotage your relationship, drop a comment below. I'd love to hear how you handled it. And if you enjoyed this story, smash that like button and subscribe because I've got plenty more stories to share. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Trust me, the next story is even crazier. Thanks for watching. And remember, real love always wins. Always.